You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. It is now confirmed that LSU has landed its second commitment of the day. D'Anthony Lafayette, the edge, has picked LSU as well. So 2 defensive linemen today for LSU for the class of 2026. We'll talk about Lafayette here in just a quick second because obviously there's a more pressing matter at hand when the 5-star number 1 player in Louisiana picks the Tigers. So this is a day that we have quite literally been waiting for 3 to 4 years. And LSU offered Lamar Brown going into his 9th grade year at U High. So this is a recruitment that is 4 years in the making. LSU has sunk tremendous resources into recruiting Lamar Brown. And today it came to a head as Brown, the 5-star number 1 athlete in America, according to On3 in the composite, the number 7 overall player regardless of position. ESPN has him ranked as the number 1 overall prospect in America regardless of position. Lamar Brown made the announcement live on ESPN2 on Thursday.
Hard choice, but I decided to do it. With that being said, for the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be committed to Louisiana State University.
So in the gym there at U High with his teammate, coaches, family present, Lamar Brown picks LSU, and then he put on a big one of those giant caps or giant hats, whatever they're called. And he, by the way, he was also wearing the LSU baseball jersey, gold baseball jersey. Interesting choice for Lamar Brown, going with the Sunday Golds to make his announcement there. There's a lot of reasons why this is significant. We'll unpack it here. First of all, obviously, anytime you can get a 5-star number 1 player in the country at their position, it is a massively significant event. There aren't that many 5-stars. Lamar Brown's one of them, and he's not only from Louisiana, he's not only from Baton Rouge, he's at U High, which is literally on LSU's campus. So this is one that, should he have gotten away, really would have stung. The other part of it, outside of just landing one of the top players, not only in the state but in the country, is not only you adding Lamar Brown, but you're keeping him away from Texas A&M. It always stings when you lose a Louisiana prospect. It hurts even more when you lose a Louisiana prospect to a team you're going to have to play. We've given the example numerous times, but the late, great Joe McKnight, when he picked Southern Cal, man, that was brutal. But you never saw him again. He went to the West Coast, played for Southern Cal, and you never saw Joe McKnight again. When, a player from Devontae Smith from a meet goes to Alabama and wins a Heisman, you have to play him every year, that stinks. So the fact that not only did you get Lamar Brown, but you kept him away from A&M was doubly significant. I also look at the position he plays and the immediate need that LSU will have at edge. You brought in 3 defensive ends via the transfer portal this year. You went and added Jack Pyburn and Jamari Butler and Patrick Payton. All 3 of them are gone after this year, meaning in 2026, conceivably, the only player with real experience that you could project right now would be Gabe Relaford. So there is an absolutely immediate path to the field as a freshman for Lamar Brown, even if it's a scenario where it's not an every down type player. But I remember back with Kendall Beckwith, for example. Beckwith played quarterback and defense in high school, goes to LSU. He ends up being an NFL middle linebacker. He was a giant human, but he was so athletic that from his first game in Jerry World against TCU in 2013, they had him rushing the passer. So there are those situations where immediately Lamar Brown will be on the field. But there's a lot more to this as well. LSU, I looked this up today. This is probably going to surprise you because it surprised me. Remember for years when Mike Detillier would come on this show, that's when LSU had the DBU moniker, and he said, people say DBU, but really it's DLU, D-line U. Because LSU went a dozen straight years of having a defensive lineman selected in the NFL draft. Now, that streak's since been broken. And LSU's had good defensive linemen. But the statistic that really surprised me, the last time LSU had a defensive lineman earn first-team All-America honors, first-team All-American on the defensive line, was Sam Montgomery in 2011. It has been 14 years since LSU had a first-team All-American on the defensive line. And you've had some really good players since then. Devon Gotcha was a really good player for you. Rashard Lawrence was a really good player. I mean, he was a 5-star from Neville, who you got was a very effective player on a championship team. Jaquelin Roy from U-High, incidentally, was one of the top players in the state of Louisiana, one of the top defensive linemen in the country, came to LSU, was a very solid football player for you. You've recently got Mason Smith, who was a 5-star. Injuries sort of set him back. Don McKinley's a 5-star who's here now. But if you want to get back to what it was like at LSU with those dominant defenses, it all started with dominant players up front like Chad Lavallee and Kyle Williams and Claude Roten and Drake Nevis, like Glenn Dorsey. Like those types of players were at the core of how you built those defenses. And right now you've got Dominic McKinley on campus, who was the number 1 player in Louisiana for 2025. You've got Richard Anderson, the number 1 defensive tackle in the country for 2026 out of New Orleans, committed. And now you've got Lamar Brown as well. And you could foresee a world where you've got 3 5-stars on your defensive line, and who knows who else might be there. And you can say, all right, that's what it's supposed to look like. And Lamar Brown is going to be a massive part of that. I know the U-High component is always a part of this. We had Andy Martin with us yesterday, U-High's head coach, and he even spoke to it a little bit, and he's right. There have been notable players from U-High not to go to LSU. Dylan Moses or Christian Harris or Tim Williams or Jordan Gilbert and Jordan Clark. But context matters in all of those conversations, y'all. Like Dylan Moses was committed until Les Miles got fired, and then he flipped. A guy like Tim Williams, we learned it whenever he went to the combine about his failed drug tests. Well, at LSU at the time, and we saw they kicked Tyrann Mathieu off the team. Like there was a real concern as to whether or not they were going to be able to keep him eligible. A guy like Jordan Clark didn't have a committable offer to LSU when he went to Arizona State. So there's context that matters with a lot, but there's guys like Keelan Moses, who's on the team now. Jordan Gilbert, who transferred here when he had the shot. Jaquelin Roy, who we just mentioned. And now, obviously, the biggest of them all, Lamar Brown, the 5-star defensive lineman who will be a part of the LSU 2026 class. I know there's the cynical nature that everyone has in this day and age after we saw what happened last year, or just this past December, with Bryce Underwood, with Jakeem Stewart, with Cade Phillips, and you're not wrong to be cynical. What has changed, however, is the House settlement, and this is the important part. Remember, NIL as we knew it no longer exists, right? Every NIL deal for college athletes has to go through Deloitte in the clearinghouse. It has to be market value. You can't just pay a guy out of the portal, a backup quarterback, $500,000 because you need a backup quarterback. There has to be market value. Well, remember, there is no such cap on high school NIL. So yes, as I understand it, LSU has a very healthy 6-figure NIL deal with Lamar Brown that will pay him through December when he signs. And then obviously it would be onto revenue share once he got onto campus. And then whatever he might be able to earn in true NIL. But the point being is if you're worried about a similar situation which happened this past December, the world has dramatically changed because those conversations have already been had. Could a rich Texas oil guy come in that second week in December and drop a giant bag on Lamar Brown? I presume it's possible, but it would have already happened at this point. So I do think they get across the finish line with Lamar Brown. He's a guy throughout his entire recruitment who said LSU was his leader. They were going to be tough to beat. He's a guy from Baton Rouge who, listen, when he on the ESPN interview, he was asked about why he picked LSU. Listen to the answer he gave.
It always started off with Coach Kelly, ninth grade year, eighth and ninth grade year. That was my first offer. He always believed in me. Just the culture here, playing for Baton Rouge, playing for the state of Louisiana, it meant a lot.
Playing for Baton Rouge, playing for the state of Louisiana. Coach Kelly believed in him from the beginning, his first offer, and everything else, the money, all of it falls into place. This is one I do believe they get across the finish line in December. He does sign with LSU. He plays for LSU, and hopefully he lives up to the billing because it's a guy who is a freakishly athletic human at 6'5", 300 pounds. Andy Martin told us yesterday he was running his 40 time with the receivers at U-High. God just didn't make many humans that size with that physical ability. You turn him loose, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, especially with the other guys who are going to be across that defensive front. So a massive, massive get for LSU. The 5-star Lamar Brown picks the Tigers. LSU now up to number 5 in the On3 team rankings, but with only 14 commitments. LSU, I guess 15 now. LSU has the highest average rating among commits. So if you look at the average rating among the commitments, it's the highest by a wide margin in the country. Tigers very much have a shot at the number 1 overall class by the time this thing is done in December. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.